unlocking our potential and bringing our perspectives to the tables to move the Canadian economy forward. I agree with Dave's words that it's time to be bold and do things differently. Think outside the box and be relentless. I would like to take a moment to thank our cultural sponsor, EDC, for their continued support of the First Nations Major Project Coalition. I want to also acknowledge our talented Indigenous artist, Storm Angie Konab, an Indigenous artist from Treaty 3 territory, Lac-Seul First Nation, who created this year's conference logo. And Katie Willem, an award-winning Indigenous designer from the Chippewas of Nawash First Nations, who designed the stage setup you'll see later in the lunchroom. Thank you both for your beautiful work. I would now like to welcome Joseph Manelli, International Vice President and Canadian Director, LIUNA, to the stage to introduce our next speaker. Joseph? There we go.
Good morning. I'm just a little guide, so I'm always hard to find. So I'm the Canadian Director for LIUNA, representing about 160,000 construction workers right across Canada. Our pension plan is a $12 billion pension plan that invests right across the country. And in fact, in Ontario, we are the largest developer for residential housing. At the very moment, we have 30,000 units underway in only the province of Ontario. Back in 2021, it was a pleasure to sign an MOU with this great organization, and we are one of your sponsors here today. I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker. In 2018, Doug Ford was elected as Premier of Ontario. And since that time, he has done so much work in order to improve the lives of workers, improve the lives of business people in the province of Ontario, and all Ontarians, to make a better life for them in this great province. I sit on the Invest Ontario board, and I was appointed by the Premier, and I have never seen so much investment coming into the province of Ontario. In fact, $300 billion of investment has been coming into Ontario since Doug Ford was elected. What that means that there is an excess of $64 billion coming into the province of Ontario because of his leadership. This is a Premier that truly cares about moving this province forward, doing what's right for the Ontarians, for all Ontarians. In fact, he makes decisions that are tough decisions. And those decisions will reap rewards for the future of our great province. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome for the Premier of Ontario, Doug Ford.
Appreciate it. Boy, well, thank you so much, and good morning, everyone. And I just want to thank Joseph. He's probably one of the most humble people you've ever met. You know, he just thinks outside the box. He's always there supporting communities, including the First Nations communities, and what a great partnership. He sits on Invest Ontario, and I think his term's up. I'm trying to convince him to go another round for a few more years, but I think he sits on more boards than I've ever seen. And I just have to say, I'm thrilled to be here with my all-stars. I always say my all-stars because they are all-stars. Minister Greg Rickford, I'll tell you, he is the best minister for Indigenous affairs we've ever seen in Ontario. He's worked with the communities. He's lived in the communities. I think at one time, Greg, you were saying 7 years as a nurse there. You're the only guy, Greg, that I know is a nurse, a lawyer, and a minister. So you're multi-talented there. And another great individual is MPP Will Boma. Thank you, Will, for all the work that you're doing as well. And I also heard Minister Smith was here stirring up the crowd about what the playoffs coming up. And I watched the Winnipeg game last night. I was cheering for them, so thank goodness they won. And yeah, no, that was good. Yeah, go Edmonton. There you go. Does anyone have a goalie for the Leafs or something? We need something there. So anyways, I love the Leafs. I'm diehard, so we'll see in another 50 years. Eventually we'll win. And so we'll welcome everyone to the 2024 First Nations Major Projects Coalition Conference. And I was talking to the organizers. They're saying this is like a record. 1,700 people are here, but it just shows the interest, right, not only here in Ontario, but right across the province. And before I begin, I want to thank Chief Gale and everyone at the conference for bringing us together. And I want to welcome all of you, whether you're from Ontario, the greatest region in the entire world as far as I'm concerned, or traveling from out of province. We're excited to have you join us today. And please, while you're here, enjoy Toronto and the rest of the area. This conference has established itself as a leading forum in North America. It's an important summit that brings together key voices from First Nations, the private sector, and government to create opportunities for economic growth and job creation. Here in Ontario, our government is deeply committed to promoting the economic prosperity of First Nations communities. And, you know, I always tell Greg, nothing moves forward without the consent of First Nations, Indigenous communities, because if you try to do it any other way, it just doesn't work. Simple as that. I learned that in politics. You got to have the municipalities, you have to have the province and the federal government on board if you want to get things done. And that's exactly the same for First Nations communities. Everyone has to prosper and grow. That commitment begins with building relationships, building partnerships that respect the province's constitutional obligation, including our duty to consult. And it starts with acknowledging that when it comes to expanding opportunities in First Nations communities, the approach should be never assume that government knows best. Matter of fact, government doesn't know best in a lot of things, but especially this. Instead, we need to work together in a true partnership that puts First Nations leaders in the driver's seat to ensure First Nations communities secure economic growth and prosperity. Here in Ontario, that's exactly what we're doing. In 2021, we worked alongside the Chiefs of Ontario to create the First Nations Economic Growth and Prosperity Table. We also stood up the Wealth Table, bringing together First Nations people and business leaders across industries so we can sit down, listen, and hear directly from communities about the best ways to support First Nations economic development. And thanks to the feedback from these tables, our government has made a $25 million in targeted investments to boost First Nations economies, including $10 million for Indigenous entrepreneurs, $8 million for skills training, and it's so important, the skilled trades, as Joseph will tell you, and $4 million to reduce barriers to entrepreneurships. We're also supporting willing Indigenous communities. As I said before, if it's not willing, we don't do it. If it's a willing Indigenous community, then we go forward and we work together to become more active participants in the mining and forest sectors. In the energy sector, as I think you heard from our great Minister of Energy earlier this morning, we're seeing great partnerships develop between First Nations and industry. Last year, we were thrilled to join former Chief Mark Hill at Six Nations to celebrate the progress of their Oneida storage project, and that's a big project, being built in partnership within our store with support from our government. When complete, this will be one of the largest electricity storage projects in Canada and one of the largest in the entire world. In 2022, Hydro One, the province's largest electricity provider, announced an industry-leading partnership model that offers First Nations a 50% equity stake in all future large-scale capital transmission line projects. This program, yeah, that was a good one. Matter of fact, that's huge, absolutely huge. This program fosters a true partnership with First Nations communities who provide planning and environmental support and participate in employment opportunities provided by major infrastructure projects. For our part, our government is investing $15 million to promote Indigenous leadership in the electricity sector, to reduce energy costs for First Nations communities. We're also working with First Nations that wish to partner with us and with the community as a whole to end their reliance on costly, unreliable diesel-generated electricity. Folks, I've talked to a lot of people in the community, and people that live here in Toronto take it for granted that, you know, you can sit there and not worry about making sure they have diesel and flip-on lights and this and that. I said nothing will change people's lives. Roads do, infrastructure, highways, but bringing electricity there and connectivity, whether it comes to broadband, it changes people's lives. First, we're supporting the construction of a new transmission project, expected to be completed by the end of this year. That will connect 16 remote diesel-dependent First Nations to the provincial grid for the first time ever. Just think, you're changing the lives of 16 communities, and that's just the beginning. And last month, we announced that we're working in partnership with 5 other communities to help end their reliance on diesel-powered energy and support greater First Nations self-determination. Now, before I finish, I want to talk about how we're working with First Nations communities in Northern Ontario to unlock the jobs and economic potential of our province's critical minerals. As many of you know, Ontario is blessed with some of the most mineral-rich deposits in the entire world, including the Ring of Fire region. These are critical minerals needed to make the next generation of electric vehicle batteries. And here in Ontario, we've become a world leader in the electric vehicle revolution. You know, Bloomberg came out worldwide, it was a few weeks ago, and said Canada is now the leader. I should say Ontario, but here, Canada is the leader when it comes to EV production and batteries. And we've overtaken China and knocked them off the pedestal for the first time ever, thanks to your cooperation and everyone's support around the province. That's absolutely huge. We're building an end-to-end EV supply chain, connecting our critical minerals in Northern Ontario and clean steel makers to automakers and electric vehicle battery makers across the province. Over the past 3 years alone, we've attracted over $28 billion in auto and EV battery investments. And folks, stay tuned. You know, I always say Stellantis was huge, $5 billion. And I went down there and it was a 4.2 million square foot building. I've never been in a 4.2 million square foot building. It was massive. And the jobs that it's creating and so on and so forth. But it all starts with the critical minerals and everyone benefits and it flows all the way down to the manufacturers. And then we landed Volkswagen. Volkswagen, we thought, boy, $7 billion investment, how can you get any bigger? They're building the 4th largest building in the entire world. Think of that, the 4th largest building in the entire world. So Stellantis is 4 million. Volkswagen is 16 million square feet. It's like a city in itself, and they're going to be the largest battery manufacturer in North America. But this week, we've landed a new deal. It'll be the largest deal in Canadian history. It'll be double the size of Volkswagen. So stay tuned. We'll be announcing it this week. And sorry to tease the crowd, but they'd shoot me if I told them who it's for. But it's coming this week. So it's great. It's right across the region. Everyone's going to benefit from Northern Ontario, First Nations communities, and flowing all the way through to the manufacturer. Ontario is now, this is what I love. Ontario now is the only place in the entire world, think of this, where the 6th largest automakers call home. And this all took place with the support of First Nations, support of Ontarians, all levels of government. But just go back 5.5 years ago. 5.5 years ago, companies were leaving Ontario. 300,000 jobs left Ontario. Now there's over 700,000 more people working today than there was 5.5 years ago. Folks, I have one theory. I think we're the only government that I could ever remember that has seen growth of $64 billion. We came in office at $150 billion. It's $214 billion, and we've never raised a tax. We reduced taxes to a tune of $8 billion, a burden off the backs of companies to be competitive, to bring companies and attract companies from all over the world to invest in Ontario. We've never raised a tax on the backs of people either. We reduced the taxes. The worst thing you could ever do is let the government take your money. Simple as that. It should be the other way around. We should always be creating the opportunities and economic growth until everyone prospers. As we continue to build on this momentum, we're actively engaging with First Nations communities so that they can fully participate in economic opportunities provided by the electric vehicle revolution. Our government has dedicated close to $1 billion to support legacy infrastructure in the Ring of Fire region, including funding for high-speed internet and road upgrades. See, that's what I've said this all the time. You go into communities, not just First Nations communities, but communities in the north. Roads change people's lives, obviously healthcare, bringing fresh food. But when you connect to the internet, high-speed internet, for our kids, for our businesses, it changes people's lives. And we're going full steam on that. We've invested over $4.2 billion to make sure every single person is connected to high-speed internet by the end of 2025. We've signed a community development agreement with the Martin Falls and Webequie First Nations. Talk about my champions. Those two are my champions. To build community infrastructure and support economic development in the region. These two First Nations are leading environmental assessments for all-season roads to the Ring of Fire, roads that will not only benefit communities, but all First Nations in the Ring of Fire region. This corridor of prosperity will bring economic growth, the likes of which they've never seen before, and opportunity to northern and remote First Nations communities. And it will improve access to and reduce costs of critical goods and services, including fuel, gas, groceries, and healthcare. Friends, here in Ontario, we're going to keep working together, shoulder to shoulder with our First Nations partners. We're going to keep championing Indigenous-led approaches when it comes to economic development. By working together in true partnership, by putting First Nations input and interest first, and I repeat that, by putting First Nations input and interest first. We can help First Nations communities create jobs and support long-term economic growth. You will always have a true partnership in our government and myself, and I just want to thank each and every one of you for inviting me to speak today. I hope you enjoy the conference and all the very best. Anything you need, call me on my cell phone. I think half the people have my cell phone. And I'm not joking. Call me on my cell phone. I always joke with Greg. I said I should be the Minister of Indigenous Affairs because I talk to so many chiefs all the time. But no one comes close to Greg and his leadership. And Greg, thank you. He's been there for 5.5 years. You're a great leader, along with Will. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. And again, feel free to give me a call. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Doug Ford, Premier. I am deadly curious to know what this announcement is that you've teased us on. So maybe somebody will call you on your cell to find out. Thank you, sir, for your support of Indigenous growth participations across Ontario.